All right. Mute on. All right. We are live from Chicago. And it's a bit chilly outside. So, hence my sweatshirt. And it's that time of year when, it's fall, the leaves, leaf mold, and that kind of thing. So, little sinus going on, some congestion, that's been going on all week. So, I see, I'll try and avoid having any coughing fits. I think I'll do okay for the most part. So anyway, welcome to excuse me, to the show, to the Brunch Bunch, and this is this is episode 21. Kind of amazing how things are going. I see we got a person out there, so have some people coming through. We're going to be talking about excuse me, the year 1994 in music, which was, for me, an interesting time because there was a transition that was happening in my life in terms of the type of music that I was listening to, and it began roughly in 1994 because I had come out and I was starting to go to gay clubs. And so electronic dance music, trance, synth pop, a lot of new musical genres started coming into my collection, and that's pretty much continued over the years. So I've got some records pulled for this. We'll wait for some other people to come on to the stream. Recently, I have been doing a little bit of shopping. I spent last couple of months. I have spent so much money on records. It's really, really terrible. I am sort of like withholding, but I got records coming in the mail. And hey, Chris, good to see you here. Bring you on board shortly. That's fine. So when you can, that'll be all right. But yeah, just a lot of stuff that I have been buying, but again, moving into different areas. Recently, this was kind of it wasn't a complete blind buy because I was able to listen to it. And I am trying to remember, when was this originally? Well, I may talk about it in the next episode a little bit more because this was originally released in 1995. But it's something that I picked up recently. Pluto Rising. And so this is a two record set that was remastered. So this is some, I guess you would call this down tempo trance or house. Not house, it's more, I guess, trance. So, but yeah, been listening to this, and of course the cover intrigued me. I just thought, wow, this is kind of a cool cover. They had listening stations at the store I was in, so I was listening to it, and I'm going, yeah, okay, this is something I like. So yeah, next episode I'll talk more about it. And I've been looking for this store here in Chicago, Gramophone Records. Really specializes in 12-inch singles, dance music, house, trance and in down tempo, et cetera, et cetera. And so they had a 12-inch of some Underworld that I picked up. So I have Underworld on CD, and I guess I'm going to mention this because the year is 1994, all right, for today, and Underworld did have a release in 1994. It's Dub No Bass with My Head, something like that. I can't remember exactly. I don't have it. I thought I did. But I don't. I have a couple other Underworld releases. Hey, Ed, how you doing? And so I happened to see this in a really nice copy. So this is from the CD Second Toughest in the Infants, which I do have that on CD. And side one is Rolla or Raula, and then Juanita is the other side. So really cool 12-inch. I'm glad I picked this up. It's on the Wax Tracks label. So Underworld, I would like to get more Underworld on vinyl. So and I actually for today's episode, the few times I did go out to record stores, I was looking for that Underworld, even if I could find it on a CD. The Dub No Bass in My Head or something. I still can't quite remember what it is, but I didn't find one because I would like to have that and add it to my collection. But it's a good store, Gramophone Records. The problem with the store is that a lot of the merchandise is expensive, so it's not like I'm going to buy a lot of stuff there when I go. Also, I'll apologize for my poor wireless quality. My signal is going to drop down on occasion. So, but welcome everybody. Excuse me. I know that Chris will be coming up later. He has some items pulled for today. And so if others have some records for releases from 1994, welcome to come by. It's been kind of a, we've had some recent celebrity passings, deaths. Robbie Coltrane is the most recent one. And so I've been, I pulled out all my Harry Potter movies to watch. Then Loretta Lynn, I believe, was the other one that was perhaps last week. I should probably look that up to make sure right, yeah. So that she died October 4th. And then, hey, Ryan, welcome from Wales. Good to see you. So yeah, there was Loretta Lynn also, and then of course, and her name escapes me again. The other actress who had a really, really good role debut. Murder She Wrote, the Murder She Wrote lady. Why I can't remember her name. But hey, Stunty. So then we've got Ronnie Cuber died last week also. I'm not familiar with him. Was he You say he played with Zappa. I don't recognize the name from a studio album. Was he someone who played during tours? Was he hired for tours? Um, because yeah, the name I don't recognize. But it's for me anyway. My generation. People are passing. And it's going to be happening more and more frequently. And so, I was kind of surprised, I guess, by Robbie Coltrane. 72 was, Jesus, that's not old. I'm going to be 72 in 8 years. So, um, oh, okay. So he was a Barry sax player. And so on some of the tours. All right. Yeah. I played baritone sax, Barry sax, and tenor sax, and alto. The only saxophone I didn't play was soprano. And had fun with the Barry sax because, a lot of times when you're playing Barry sax, you're playing sort of like a bass rhythm part for the most part in most situations. But there are some times when you can get you get some shots at playing some really honking passages, of course, depending on the type of music that you're playing. Um, but yeah, and plus Barry sax, holy moly, that's a heavy thing to have hanging around your neck, uh, and been playing. So, excuse me. Yeah, you see, now when I played saxophone, I did not own one. All right, so when I was in school and high school, I used the um, equipment, the music, the instruments that were provided by the school. And hey, Eddie, nice to see you. Um, but then what happened was after I graduated high school, I didn't play anymore. So on occasion, I would rent um, an instrument, and I would play it for a while. But I never got hooked up with a band that needed a saxophone player. And well, right, yeah, it's you need to practice a lot, and because it was kind of like a hobby thing. I was more interested after high school to learn how to play by ear. So when I was practicing, most of the time I spent just practicing scales, really boring scales, and just familiarizing myself with the different scales and keys. And then, hey, Zeb. And then I would, play. I'd put a CD. At that time, I had just about all my music was CDs, and so I would play a CD of something and then play along with it. And so I picked up how to play a few Traffic songs, um, and whatever, I can't remember. But like I say, yeah, you got to be persistent with it. And it cost money to rent that saxophone. So eventually I stopped renting it. And, that's kind of, the end with it. Maybe I'm pretty sure that if I picked up a saxophone again, um, I'd probably fumble with it for a little while. But I think I would kind of pick up. But the keys, I don't remember any of that stuff now. If somebody said, oh, all right, we need to play this, and um, we're going to play this in the key of E flat, and I'm going to be like, huh? I'm going to need sheet music, or I could probably improvise and play along, if we were starting to do something like that. So There's a link for people who are ready to want to come up here for the year in music. Hey, Jorgen, good to see you from across the ocean. So Stunty's also hailing from across the ocean. And we've got Roswell Ryan coming in from, if he's still there, coming in from Wales. So we got people coming into the stream now, and we got for the year 1994. As I said at the beginning, kind of an interesting year because I was going out to a lot of dance clubs and picking up on a lot of dance music and house music and trance. So, I mean, I started buying a lot of, well, not so much. I didn't buy too many CDs right off the bat of the different music that I was hearing in the clubs. I did later when I was going to Chicago with more frequency, and then I was finding this stuff, and then I started gradually picking that up. So, hello, Jorgen, good to see you.
Good evening, likewise.
And hello, Chris. Glad for you guys to join.
I'm not actually showing metal records. I don't know why I just did that, but
you had me scared there for a while.
I am going to be showing a lot of alternative rock records today, Jorgen.
Now, why am I not?
That's why we're both here, because we're not going to overlap with records. It's more interesting for the audience.
Yeah, and the records and stuff that I pull, I might overlap with. I'm going to say that Jorgen is going to show at least one record that I have pulled, and maybe two. I think he might, and then for the alternative rock, I think I might have probably at least one, maybe three that Chris might end up showing. But then I think I have a couple that when if Stunty joins us, that he may recognize, but that's probably going to be it. So,
and I'm going to show the Facepalm records for.
I'm sorry, I didn't. I got to turn my volume up. I didn't hear you. So, well, let's get started. I will. Oops, this way. Go with Jorgen first. We'll have you start us off here. What do you got?
1994, a year that if this would have been 1994-95, I would have not have anything to show because I really disliked the year 1994 back then. Wow. There were a lot of genres that me, who love jazz, synth pop, regular pop, soul music, was not that interested in. However, I have since a long time ago showed my white flag and said that, okay, I was wrong. There were a lot of great stuff in the 1994. And today I'm going to show a whole lot of records that I would never have shown back then.
Ah, okay.
So even I can change my mind. Not that much alternative rock, though.
I got you covered
there. But this is a really great record that I bought. I think it was around 96, 97. And it is The Grid, British Grid.
I haven't got a clue about them.
The Grid, I think that we talked about them back when we were at 92. Dave Ball from Soft Cell, his other group when Soft Cell had disbanded. He did this electro dance group that in this case did a whole lot of experimenting. They had huge successes this year with songs that mixed country music with techno dance music. Swamp Thing with great, I think, ukulele playing by Roger Dinsdale, and Texas Cowboys. And it was the entire album is really great. The entire album does not sound country techno, but it is a real. It's one song that is great called Roller Coaster, and it really is a roller coaster with different kind of beats and different kind of sounds. And I really like this album because it is so well sounding and well made, well produced, and fits together so well. And it is real. You never know what's going to expect when you listen to one song and the other. So a really great dance record.
Oh, I may enjoy that if I see that, because I don't know anything about them. I like some good dance and techno. Excuse me. Are they only from that era? They didn't produce anything for afterward, or?
No, they did, I think, 2 major records. Then I don't know. I think they have made some songs afterwards, but that's the only 2 that I have that have become big. Then one from '92 and this one.
Okay.
So they are the only 2 that have become big. Then I think Dave Ball right now. I mean, he has gone together with Mark Almond again and reformed Soft Cell after that also. So I think the Grid is something that is very much in the back right now, but I think it's in the shadows. But he releases tracks every month. The 2 first were the one that was absolutely most selling.
Okay. All right. Then, Chris, what are you going to start us off with some alt rock here? Or something else?
I'm going to start you off with some alt rock from Chicago.
Okay.
So we're going to start with Veruca Salt, American Thighs. This band, they had their 2 singers were both women, Nina Gordon and Louise Post, who also played guitar. And then they had a male bass player, a male drummer. The drummer was the brother of Nina Gordon. They're probably most well known for their song Seether, which is on this particular record. So they were a pretty hard rocking alternative group. Number One Blind is a pretty good song that's on this album as well. There's a YouTube clip of them from like 1995 at the Glastonbury Festival that's just great for rock and roll chaos because they're totally fucked up. The drummer busts his drum head. Nina can barely stand up, but it still somehow works just for rock and roll. So,
yeah, I'm looking at my the dance CDs that I was. Oh, here's one from 1994. Well, what do you know? I got one from 1994.
And I bought this at Wax Tracks, but I'm almost positive this was the Wax Tracks in Denver. So
okay. Yeah, the record I was showing earlier from the Underworld was on the Wax Tracks label. So, hey, Stunty.
Underworld was on Wax Tracks in the US under license.
I thought that was a pretty good score that I saw that in the store, but yeah, I as I said at the beginning, I thought I had on CD No Dub Bass in My Head or whatever the hell the name of that release was.
That's the one. That's the one, the first album.
Yeah, I thought I had it, but I don't. So, and I've been looking for it, but no. Well, all right. So you're on now, Stunty. So what do you got?
Firstly, I just wanted to connect what Jürgen showed to something you might know, because the Grid used to work with Steve Hillage.
Okay.
From Gong.
Oh, okay.
I recognize
Gong,
the name.
but I don't know the names in Gong.
Steve Hillage is a legendary prog rock guitar player went into trance and stuff like that in the 90s. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Because I've got the Radio Gnome trilogy, but I haven't listened to that in like a long time. I can't remember who the people are in Gong.
All right.
I think you need to remember guys from prog music.
So I just checked my Discogs, and according to my Discogs, I got 413 vinyl records from 1994.
And we won't quit until you have shown every one of them.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I have several options, but I'm gonna show one very influential from that one very influential record. I got it on double CD, I got it on VHS, and of course I got it on vinyl. Artificial Intelligence 2, a triple LP or a double LP with in this edition with a bonus 12-inch, which is basically the pinnacle of the first area of Warp Records, the Artificial Intelligence series. As you can see, they were like quite they were into this whole like 3D isometric visuals back then, which was quite new. And this compilation has so much stuff that would become the future, like B12, Higher Intelligence Agency, Otaker, Speedy G, Beaumont Hannant, Richard H. Kirk from Cabaret Voltaire, Balil, which is basically played, Seafield, Darrell Fitton, which would become Bola, Polygon Window, which is Aphex Twin, and a bunch of others, and it's all original tracks. It's not like a compilation of the stuff from around. It's a compilation of original tracks that were never before or after elsewhere than on this compilation, which was pretty much the introduction for a lot of people back then when they were like getting tired of indie rock because of Oasis and stuff like that. So they transitioned into electronic music, and that was a really influential compilation for that, still to this day. I guess there's not going to be much crossover or feedback from you on these kind of stuff.
It's all interesting. It's like this store that I go into on occasion has so much dance and techno and down tempo and house, and it's overwhelming every time I go. Plus, he's a little pricey, so I tend to. I mean, that one that I showed at the beginning that I picked up, which I will have for 1995. That was a pretty pricey, even for a double album, but it is really good.
When I come to think about it, this was distributed and released by Wax Trax in the US. Actually, that was the last year Warp had releases. I think maybe 95, where they had releases that when they were released in the UK and distributed in the US, and it was through Wax Trax, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah, the one that'll be for next time is going to be this one here. So
don't spoil it.
Well, okay.
Too late.
I still have to listen to it more though, so I get more familiar with it. But I do like it. So yeah, I was going through now. I have a lot of. I picked up a lot of dance CDs, and I've been kind of going through them to see, which ones are from 1994. So last time, we talked about, 1993, and so I probably should have pulled out my, Culture Beat Mr. Vane, and with all the different mixes that was released in 1993, but I did not. However, there were a couple. This one, the Pet Shop Boys Ab Fab mix, was all over the place and playing in a lot of clubs. So I've got a little CD that's got the various mixes: the 7-inch mix, the Tribe tongue-in-cheek mix, the Absolutely Dubulous mix, Dull Soulless Dance mix. So and a few others. but yeah, everybody was playing this. One club that I was going to quite frequently. Yep, Jorgen's got it as well. Do you have it on CD or do you have it on vinyl?
This is CD single.
Yeah. So yeah, this one is an import. It says made in Holland. So who knows? Maybe we got the same one.
This was pressed on vinyl, by the way, guys.
Yeah, and I bought it when I was I had pretty much jettisoned my entire vinyl collection. So and now if I see it available on vinyl, certainly I will pick it up.
We're talking about the Pet Shop Boys. I think most of the tracks are still released on vinyl in one way or the other.
Yeah, so I'll find it when I start looking for it. So, but that was definitely one that was all over the place, and I was hearing, and I was dancing to it, and so I ended up, I had to go buy it for sure.
Let's just say it's pretty odd. For a movie track or TV series track, and it contains more or less Pet Shop Boys singing the refrains and then movie sound bites from the
Right.
series.
So
What do you think of that, Chris?
Pardon?
No, I was asking Chris what he thinks of that.
I'm not sure I've ever heard it.
That's pretty fun.
You've heard of Absolutely Fabulous, the TV show.
Yes.
And you heard of the Pet Shop Boys.
Yes, I've heard of the Pet Shop Boys and the TV show. I have no specific memory of this particular song.
Let's just say that I'm way more fan of the song than of the TV series. I never understood the TV series.
I love the TV series. I thought it was a hoot, man. I had that was a great. I just loved it. It was off the hook. Every episode was so off the hook. It was just. My favorite one is still when they go to France and get so drunk from the wine tasting that she gets in the wrong side of the car and thinks that somebody stole the steering wheel. it's just hilarious. Anyway,
on the note of Absolutely Fabulous, I guess it's time for.
Well, there you go. I had plenty to drink last night during our Gunkel's live stream, so and it's still pretty early. I'm doing water right now. So
water.
It's already
Richard,
night.
you handle your liquor better than some of the other Gunkles.
Well, I've had a lot more years experience.
Who was the
worst? I know how to pace myself.
Who was the worst one, Chris, in your opinion?
It's usually a toss-up between Craig and Robert.
Oh well. So yeah, I'm gonna have some more of that stuff, and I'll mix in some other things with it too. So Jorgen, what do you have for us next?
I'm going to go with the way that Stunty was threatening to jump off 1993 for some reason, but this album didn't come out in 1993. It came out in 1994, and someone has to show it, so why not me?
Yes, Oasis.
Oasis, definitely, maybe. This is a double CD set with the whatever single. That's the other single. When it in 1994, I never understood Oasis. I thought they did some okay songs, but in Swedish media, they were hyped. So hyped that I don't think I ever had seen someone being so hyped in Swedish media back then. And back then, I thought it was that kind of music that were on rock festivals that I didn't attend to. So I thought that was very overrated. But then in 1995, I had a friend, a female friend, who said that I should give it a try anyway. So she made me, she borrowed me the album after this, What's the Story, Morning Glory. And I listened to it, and I felt donkey ears coming out of my head because I realized I was wrong all along. This was really, really great. It sounded so British. It was really well made, and it was very relaxing British rock music. And then way afterwards, I bought the CD. The CD. Or right now, I have, I think, complete Oasis collection. At least.
Oh,
from
so
the-
even after this, the other releases, you didn't think they fell off the planet?
I definitely think that Oasis after What's the Story is underrated. I think Be Here Now is one of my absolute favorite Oasis albums. No one else likes it but me, I feel like. But I think it is a rocky, extremely rocky and great album, Be Here Now. So I think Be Here Now from '97 is extremely underrated. I think that the afterwards are not are definitely not in the same category, but they are not bad. They are really okay albums. So I think that Oasis after the two first is definitely underrated, even though I understand they were most popular with the two first and maybe Be Here Now. But they started with this one, and it is a really great one, really, really great one.
Yeah,
I've taken it down.
Yeah, I noticed that you.
I
think
was going to say, did you drive Stunty away?
I think you might have.
I would assume that, judging from the comment you made.
I was, when I guess I sided with Blur when with the whole Blur Oasis war or whatever, but
I never really liked
album,
Blur.
their
I
first
never really
release, it was good. It was all right.
Yeah,
So,
I liked Blur slightly better as well. I actually think that one record Elastica did was probably my favorite Britpop album.
I think that Blur, the first albums were a little too go happy for my taste, and then after '97 they released an album that was too much hardcore for me instead. So I I never understood Blur actually.
yeah, I'm like that with Radiohead. I don't understand Radiohead. Anyway, Chris, what do you have for us?
Well, while Stunty's not here, I pulled an album because I wanted to see Stunt, because it would be somebody I would think Stunty would be most likely to know of. But since he's not here, I'm going to hold off on it, and I'll just show this.
He's here, but he's in the comment section.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's
if he
back.
comes back on screen, I'll show the other one. I'm just going to show Weezer Blue Album right now. Oh, I brought him back. Okay. So, it's Buddy Holly, Sweater Song, all that stuff.
Stunty's shaking all the cooties off him now. So,
so I mean, I don't know.
Well, at least that. No, there's a good thing with Chris showing us that. I was about to suggest you to rename the stream into Stunty is shaming us all with all our CDs, but now it's not possible.
No, it's Stunty shaming us with all our vinyl.
When it comes to
don't worry, Stunty. I have plenty of CDs to come.
And I have some vinyl. So I mean,
I'm sorry to say, but as I have I have more or less only CDs.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Stunty, bring us back. I'm
just going to say that Weezer is a band that back then I really hated Weezer. I still don't think that these first songs were great, but I have discovered Weezer big of their later material. So I think a whole lot of the Weezer's later stuff are really, really great.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no reason why Weezer is not going to have the same effect with you that Oasis had. Like, for me, it would be quite logical.
Are we a little bitter? Are we a little bitter?
No.
All right.
So now I don't know. I'm gonna show. I don't know if it's for Jürgen or for Chris, but an obvious record for '94 for me. Insane, Total Destruction. Probably, yeah. For me, it's Insane's best album. The album before that has one song that I think is their best song, but this one, yeah, it's close second. And overall the better record, I think. This is, I think, with their second drummer after the first one died of OD. This is a New York noise rock. I guess like they benefited from the whole success of Nirvana, Sonic Youth, and all that, but this is quite different. I saw them live 3 times between 92 and 95, I believe. And this was always insanely good, insanely good. And
Clever.
There's I had a T-shirt of this cover that I bought during the gig. Weirdly enough, one time I put it in the laundry at my parents' house. Somehow it disappeared between that time and when I was supposed to get it back after it was cleaned, which I don't know. So stuff like that happens sometimes. But this is for me, this is kind of a last hurrah of rock and roll, like a band that is rock, even if it's noise rock. The stuff that comes after that in rock, after '94, is more is post rock mostly what I'm interested in. But this is still, this is still proper rock and roll, even if it's super noisy and dark and nihilistic. And I'm sure that Chris has heard of them.
I've heard of them. I've never gotten an album by them, so I haven't heard their music in a long time. So, but I knew who they were.
It still holds up. It was on released on City Slang in Europe, and I guess on Amphetamine Reptile in the US.
Okay, that sounds right. Yeah.
And there was really nothing like them back then. I mean, there was a lot like them, but nothing of that intensity and that they could have. It was so noisy, and they managed to have hooks, to have melody, but like in such a disgusting way at the same time. And they were pretty good also at using microphone. If you think about how clever the Breeders and the Pixies were at changing microphone during the song to have different effects, well, Unsane kind of had something like that. They were kind of unknowingly aesthets of sound in noise.
I'll have to. Okay, yeah, that's in 1994. I'll have to keep that in mind. Well, I've got a lot. Excuse me, I'm still dealing with these allergies. And so I've got a lot of CDs, but I've got some albums too, vinyl. So I'll be switching back and forth. And this one is, Pansy Division was not something that I would say that they did anything, really amazing or they were really innovative. It was basic, pop punk, fun music and all that. What was really incredible about this record when I bought it, all right, so I bought it because of the cover. And they do a cover of Homo Sapien, that song by God, I am so bad sometimes with names, and I should know his name right off the Pete Shelley. That cover. What was really important though about this record for the time is that it had information about safe sex in it, and this was in the middle of really at the height of the AIDS crisis. I mean, AIDS had been going on, since the 80s, but we were at a point with AIDS where the death toll was just absolutely incredible. And the best that they could offer us at that time was like AZT. And there was just this growing sentiment of, if you were on AZT, it was going to kill you. And for a lot of people, that was the case. And it was right about the time that they were starting to develop and start to use the protease inhibitors. But I was living in a fairly rural area, and a friend of mine at that time was HIV positive, and the only medical advice he was getting was from a cancer specialist, an oncologist. Long story about that. But the insert with this record had information that we weren't getting from anywhere. We weren't getting it from the government. And people were afraid to openly go to like some of the health clinics and things like that for testing. Everything was done anonymously, because if your employer found out that you were getting tested for HIV, through your insurance, then you were likely to lose your job, or fall under other forms of harassment. So it had a list of gay outreach centers for youth throughout the country. It had information about safe sex, simple instructions on how to use a condom. This was information we weren't getting. And so that's why, to me, this record, the Pansy Division record, was just really important. It was an important release. I'm sure there were other releases that were doing the same thing. I was unaware of them, if there were, but Pansy Division definitely was. And it's fun music. I've got a couple other Pansy Division releases. It's just silly, punk, post-punk, power pop. A lot of it is more power pop. It's fun music, and so that was to me a significant release from 1994.
For me, I wasn't. That was outside of where I was investigating. So much so that I barely have any opinion about it.
Dr. Winston wants to know what's in that bottle, Stunty.
Oh, it's cognac, and we have dubs also in the peanut gallery, I think, or it's a bitter old man. I don't know. Could be. Who knows?
Their music is still lame pop punk. I enjoy it. It's not lame to me. All right, Jorgen, what do you got?
I got a proof that blind buys can really be gold sometimes.
Yes,
I
they
thought
can.
you were going to say the opposite.
Blind buys can really be crap sometimes. No, but I don't do blind buys that much these days, because I feel like I'm going to have time to listen to them. I'm going to have place for them. So when I do blind buys, it's cheap vinyl singles. But I did an exception here. I had no idea who this lady was when I bought it. And it was so realized that even though much of the inspiration is not my normal dose, it was really, really great. And that's Nancy Griffith's Flyer. Nancy Griffiths is a singer-songwriter with a whole lot of that music style, but also with a whole lot of country flavors in it. And I don't listen to country all that much. I'm no huge country fan, but this was really, really relaxing, and it was really, really well made. She sings really good. So this was quite a shocker to me that it was so good. So highly recommended. Nancy Griffith's Flyer.
The first time I heard Nancy Griffith, I was listening to radio while I was driving in New Mexico. You're either drinking while you're driving, or you're listening to music while you're driving in New Mexico, because of the hours where you go by nothing. But there was PBS radio. That was the first time I heard her. And I immediately fell in love with her singing and songwriting. She died recently, didn't she?
Alembic says that in the comments.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember that.
I'm going to say also that Nancy Griffith was not a big thing in Sweden. So that's why I never heard of it back then.
Yeah.
I know of her, Chris?
I know of her. I don't have any of her albums.
I never
Very
ever
much
heard
a
the name.
kind of a country folk kind of singer-songwriter. Yeah.
So whenever I find another Nancy Griffiths album, at least that close to this one, I will most likely grab it from now on. So blind buys can be real gold at times.
Yeah. That would be a good one. That would be a good one. All right. So, Chris, what do you got for us?
All right, so this is an album I picked up recently. It wasn't released until 2016, but it was recorded live in 1994. It's the Deluxe Folk Implosion. So
Oh.
it's a combination of Folk Implosion and Deluxe. So Folk Implosion was Lou Barlow and John Davis, if I remember the other guy's name right. And then Deluxe was a more of a punk band that was from the Boston area as well. So it's sort of like lo-fi punk. It's definitely harder than Folk Implosion without the Deluxe. And then the guy who was the drummer for Deluxe played in Sebadoh for a while, and on this live album that Sebadoh put out in 1994 that I think is really good, and it's pretty heavy.
You guys know the Folk Implosion, right?
I don't
Richard,
know about them. No, I don't.
You know them because they did the soundtrack to Kids, the movie Kids.
Never saw the movie Kids.
Oh, weird.
I don't really go to. I've never been a really serious movie goer.
I guess that Kids is a very interesting movie because it's also like one of the first movies that tackles AIDS for kids.
And when did that come out? When did Kids come out?
93, I believe. 94, 93,
yeah,
95.
You see, that's a movie where I was living. The theaters probably wouldn't get it. That was, the theaters, I was, small town area. So would have been much more mainstream. I mean, I was surprised that when the later, years later it came out, Brokeback Mountain played in the town I was working at the time, because it was an ultra conservative Christian right-wing epicenter of the universe type town. It was really the Colorado Springs of the Midwest, Holland, Michigan, and I was really surprised that played there. I knew about Kids, but I didn't see it because it was just not available to me. I should look it up on the streaming service. And
I don't know that album that you showed, Chris. I think because apart from like the Kids soundtrack, I have a couple of 7 inches from Folk Implosion, but for me it sounded, as you said, it was a little bit. It's like, how Beck had his regular records, and then he had One Foot in the Grave, which came out incidentally in 94, which was more country western music or country folk. And that was kind of like Lou Barlow from Sebadoh not wanting to do that, but not under the name of Sebadoh. And I think Folk Implosion, it can be a little somewhat, it's not as exciting as One Foot in the Grave. It's because he's still not going the full way folk country. It's still a little bit rock and roll.
Yeah.
But this one, I don't know. And you say it's heavier, so I might be.
Because there were the two guys from Folk Implosion and then two guys from this punk band called Deluxe, and they made this. It wasn't released until a few years ago, but this was something they did in 94.
Okay.
And as I said, the drummer from Deluxe played in Sebadoh for a while. So.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, then where are we going next, Stunty?
Okay, it was actually back then a Blind Buy. It's a band we've already all talked about, but for me it was the first record of theirs that I bought when it was released.
Yes.
So this is Slint's EP.
Right.
That came out. It's basically the transition record between Slint and Tortoise. There's only one record of Slint after that, which is a bootleg of live and demos that I have somewhere here. This is for me my favorite Slint record. Like when I went back to get the others back then, I was slightly disappointed. Now I love them, but for me this is still really from what I love the most from Slint. Yeah, this one is instrumental. There's no singing, and like you can hear how like
I have the 10 inch.
So do I.
Oh, you have a different label,
I have
Chris. You have a red label. I have a black one.
I have a red label with an octopus on one side and
Yeah.
triangle on
Yeah,
the other.
yeah, it was recently. I think it came out on polyvinyl.
Ah, okay. Well, this was Touch and Go, which was actually, now that I remember, where Unsane was released. And this is you still have the noise of synth, but you also have these very complex, intricate melodies between the guitars and the bass. The bass is very predominant, and the drumming is, well, I wouldn't say it's not rock anymore, but it's something different than rock, I guess. And and this is maybe in a way it is also like this Unsane record, the end of an era.
Well, yeah, because Brad left the band after they finished recording Spiderland, and so I guess they got together maybe 10 years ago or something like that, but that was it.
I don't know what's the story why this was released after the album, like when they didn't exist anymore, but I remember being in the Rough Trade shop in Paris and seeing that cover, and like it was hyped as a record of the week, and I just bought it because of like, oh, cool cover, Touch and Go, and
that they talk about that in the document. I should watch it again. The documentary Breadcrumb Trail. They do talk about going in and recording that record, and it was who was the guy that they had, the sound guy that whatever. I think what happened is they had
Bundy. Is it Bundy K. Brown?
I can't remember now. But it was the person that they got after Albini, and was involved with their Spiderland recording. And I think they had some extra time in a studio. So they had some free time, and so they just went in there and redid these tracks. And that was, I'd have to go back and watch Breadcrumb Trail again, because they do talk about, that when they went in and did those, because those songs are from Tweez. They were redone, I think.
Huh, interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that.
I'm fumbling as I'm trying to remember. And so I'll have to look that up and double check. But maybe I will while somebody else is talking. But on the next one here, I'm going to go. I didn't pick this up in 94, but it was released in 94. And I really find this record to be quite amazing. And let me make sure this stuff doesn't fall off my table while I'm doing all this. And that is this one here.
Oh, yeah.
Acid Mount Fuji. This is a 2018 reissue, and I remember the first time I heard this online, I just told myself I had to get this, and it was reissued, so I was able to find it. I mean, it's one of those reissues that have like, there's some liner notes, I guess, but it's really minimal information. I mean, it doesn't even, the only way you know the names of the different tracks are by looking at the label on the record. And it does identify different tracks, but I think of this record as one continuous piece. Even though it is separated into in the different tracks, like Zenmai, Kinoko, Maijin Jingu, there's different names for the tracks, but to me, it's all one piece flowing along, and really, to me, really both inspiring and incredible electronic music that I really had never heard anything like it before at that time. I mean, I was listening to some Tangerine Dream, at that time. So, I mean, it wasn't like electronic music was completely alien to me. But this was something quite different, and I really, really like it. And I'm glad I finally found a copy, even if it is a reissue, to bring into my collection.
Well,
yeah, Acid Mount Fuji, good release.
The thing is, it was never issued on vinyl back then. It was only a CD. It was first issued
Oh, okay.
on vinyl like 3 years ago or so, 4 years ago. And
right, that was when I bought.
Basically, Susumu Yokota became famous in the West for albums like these, all coming out on Leaf Records and Low Recordings. This one being one of the recent reissues, the first time on vinyl. This came out originally on vinyl back then, and it was more ambient, the stuff that he did. He was also doing on the side techno and house. He was doing everything. And that one that you showed, yeah, it was only a CD that came out on a small label. There was not that much attention because like he became mostly famous in the latter half of the 90s when he started to release more ambient or more electronica stuff that was more melodic. And that one is kind of in between both his styles, or like the dance floor stuff, which he was good at, not phenomenal, but pretty good. And the ambient stuff where he was like phenomenal at. And with on my the video we do with Michael about upcoming records pre-orders, we just talked a month ago about a new Susumu Yokota album that is coming out right now that is very, very similar to this one.
Okay, no, that's interesting. I have not seen anything else by him, and then when they did this reissue, I was glad to pick it up. But yeah, I don't know anything about his other discography, so I'll have to check.
He died. I think he died of leukemia in the early 2000s.
Oh, well, sometimes that happens. The estate posthumously releases, some of the material, and
well, he's
which is good for us, but
he's become a cult figure in electronic music. So
yeah, I'm glad I found it. That's for sure. I'm glad I discovered it because to me, it's a really quite incredible listen.
Yeah, it's a good album. I have it somewhere here.
All right, Jorgen, what?
Oh, I thought it was you.
No.
Well, I'm going to switch style a little bit. Sorry.
Sounds like what happens in my room. I got to be careful. I got so much shit piled on my desk.
Try to have some kind of.
I was happy because Liverpool scored on Manchester City. Because I've got that on the TV.
Well, I'm going to switch style a little bit.
Wrong person.
I'm going to show a band that I showed in '92 when I was here the last time. And I thought it was pretty good idea to show it this time also. Brand New Heavies.
Aha.
This is Sister Brother from '94 then. And this is with their biggest hits. We're talking about Dream on Dreamer, Midnight at the Oasis, and all those really great stuff. It's unbelievable how something this smooth also can be so funky, because this is what it is. It is relaxing, it's smooth, it's acid jazz, and it is at the same time so funky and real amazing. I really like her voice. I really like the beat. I really like the arrangements. And what's funny is that I have a friend that the one who taught me to like jazz way back in the 80s. And he is the kind of guy who never listens hardly ever to pop music. He's most into jazz or classical. And I made a cassette copy of Midnight at I discovered Midnight at the Oasis through him when he made a cassette copy of it. He who doesn't like pop taught me to like brand new heavies as jazz. So that is very, very interesting. So this is one of the absolute best albums from Biden.
I should pull that out because a friend of mine burned a CD for me that has it's a compilation of brand new heavies. And I should listen to that. I haven't listened to it in quite a while.
They will be back in 96 and 97 also.
Yeah, okay. Are they similar to Manhattan Transfer?
No.
Okay.
Manhattan Transfer is more entertainment, vocal jazz, in my opinion. This acid jazz is like taking jazz beats and mix it with soul music and get something really smooth and real.
Okay.
groovy.
Okay. All right. I'll have to pull it out then and give it a listen. All right. I did look up on that Untitled Slint release, and yes, the two songs that are unnamed. The side A song is Glenn, and the side B song is Rhoda, which are both songs from Tweez, but they're remixes.
Okay.
Chris.
All right. Well, I've got a CD. I'm not sure if any of you guys have heard of this band. This was their only release under the name Velo Deluxe. The album is called Super Elastic. So the guy on the left-hand side, John Strom, had been in the Blake Babies, and then a band called Antenna, then this band called Velo Deluxe. I kind of find it interesting because they look like your quintessential dopey mid-90s alternative rock band in that picture, don't they?
Yeah.
And so basically the first half of this album sounds kind of like a standard semi-commercial mid-90s alternative rock album. The second half of the album was much more interesting. So John Strom eventually released a couple of solo albums that were much more Americana rootsy sounding, and he kind of delved into that in the second half of this album. It's almost like he started off making the album, listening to the label, I'll make it sound commercial, and then by the time he got to the end, he kind of said, fuck it, it's not going to be commercial, I'm just going to do what I want.
Nice. That sounds a little bit like I don't know if you're familiar with him, with Matt Valentine, who went on to do the Tower recordings, which is like really great psychedelic experimental Americana. And he started out in the 90s as like a proto-grunge band on the British label named the Were Frogs. Not that good, but not that bad either. But I guess
Nice.
you can't take the American out of the American, right?
I guess not. So,
and you can't take out the 70s from our friend something 65, since he only rates Ween from the 90s, a band that is totally like a 70s band. So, so I'm gonna show a band that none of you have heard of because it's a French band. But it's a band, it's a cult French band now. They've been reissued, and they're called Bastard. This is their first album, and they were kind of the French equivalent of Tortoise, but noisier with sampler. Like imagine if Tortoise or Slint were mixed with Cop Shoot Cop or Girls Against Boys. That would kind of be that, but they're still quite unique. For me, getting this, I saw them like quite a few times, and it was always the most fascinating band from that area in France. And I got the CD of this when it was released, and I never saw the vinyl. But when Discogs started, I had heard the rumor that there might be a vinyl version of that, even if I knew no one who had it. And I created the vinyl entry of it, even if I didn't know it existed, just in case someone would have it and would sell it. So then I could get it. And that's how I got it, by creating a non-existent or potentially non-existent vinyl version of that. They only did 2 real proper albums because the music was getting so complicated to make. And the second album, which has their best track, but the album is a bit lackluster, was produced by John McEntire and got a remix EP, remixed by Andy Bryant, Casey Rice, and Bundy K. Brown from Tortoise and Slint, which was released, on the French label as well. But and they disappeared, but over the years, like, they become rediscovered because the scene in France was so small for that kind of music back then. It was less than, I would say, maybe 500 people, less than 1,000 people in the whole of France who were into that kind of stuff. And now you got like deluxe, to use Chris' favorite word of today, reissues of this with tons of outtakes, the second album as well, and they're quite easy to find. But if you're into like Slint and Tortoise, this is well worth investigating.
Somehow
That's bastard with an umlaut.
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow
which is quite it's quite juvenile in a way, but it's also quite clever because it makes them, it's easy to spot them and to remember. There's this thing to remember about the name. Otherwise, just bastard, it would be like just any generic punk band or whatever.
There's
they used to be, actually, I forgot, you might know of them because this is the band that emerged from the ashes of a previous band called the Deity Guns, which actually released an album, I believe, on SST, and that was produced by Lee Ronaldo from Sonic Youth, and they toured with Sonic Youth in like 92, 93. And I saw them open for Unsane, actually.
I was wondering if they were. I have a compilation that of some music that I was wondering if they were on it, but they're not. I just looked at the track listings, and I thought they were on my copy of the Bedroom Tapes. So,
but they're really, basically, they like this whole Chicago post-punk, post-rock, post-hardcore sound. But the post-rock sound, the guitar, the way they kind of had it before even Chicago had it. It was like zeitgeist. It all happened, I guess. The influences were not in a vacuum.
And no, Jason, nobody's mentioned Emperor yet. So, and I don't know if anyone will. So we'll
maybe Jürgen, because it's a Swedish band.
Yeah,
Never heard of them.
He's shaking his head.
It's a metal band.
And you have the guts to ask me if I've heard of them.
You never know with you. Sometimes you surprise us quite often.
You might walk by a guy on the street that has the Emperor t-shirt on.
Oh yeah, that's
Right.
really neat.
Yeah.
No,
All
you,
right. So,
you walk by.
so I am this one. A lot of people probably think this is one of their weakest albums in their discography. I really like it. I like the sound. I like what they did with it, and that is REM's Monster. This is I all the way through. I just love this, the grinding, droning sound, the fuzz, everything about it. This album to me is a really good one of my favorites of REM's. So I still think probably Crush with Eyeliner, Star 69, Bang and Blame. I just love those songs. And it definitely is. I am a big REM
Staple of
fan.
the $1 CD bin.
Well, this one I probably paid too much for. This is an OG copy that I ended up buying from a seller in Japan. because even with the shipping cost, I still got it for what I considered a reasonable price compared to what other sellers in the United States were selling it for. So I figured it was, it was a lucky find for me. But yeah, REM is, I got a lot of their stuff on CD. I have a lot of their stuff on vinyl. Probably, I think this is the last release of theirs that I have on vinyl. Everything after that I have on CD, and the vinyl issues are so expensive that I don't think I'll ever get them on CD or on vinyl.
Fun thing about REM when it comes to this album and me is that this is yet another album that I would never have shown back then, because as much as I liked the singles from 91 and 92 and 93, I thought that when I heard What's the Frequency, Kenneth, I thought that, oh my God, what is this? This is totally crap. And from there, REM went into the freezing zone for me for many, many years. And I really didn't care for the music until I heard Imitation of Life, and I started to discover them again and realized that, hey, I really bought this one again to give it a new chance, and I realized that, yes, it's not their best album. It's definitely not their best album, but it's far better than I actually gave it credit for. So today, I actually like it. I like What's the Frequency, Kenneth now. I think it's a great rock song. I like Bang and Blame. I like, those hits. And so even I can change.
It's an album that I really
Chris,
like playing loud.
Before you say what you have to say, which I hope is positive about REM, to end it on a good note, let me speak before then, because I would be the opposite of Jürgen. I might have not have anything against it back when it was released, but because of that album, for me, I'm sorry to be the biggest party pooper, but when they were touring that album, Michael Stipe tried to date rape a friend of mine and drugged him, and so REM doesn't exist, REM for me since that.
Let's just say that they're good at their work. Maybe they're worse as a person.
I don't know. I just know that, and that's enough for me.
Well, yeah, if you caught the Gunkles last night, we certainly ran into that issue with some music that that the creator of the music has a really despicable past. And
well, for me, it's not even that; it's that it's personal to me. It's
right, yeah. Well, it was personal to myself and Fithin in a way, because we both had brothers who were disabled, and the creator of this music was somebody who was exposed to be a really mean bully of disabled people. So there was a personal connection with that. I didn't know about it until recently.
Let's just say like this: that there are a lot of artists that have done horrible things.
Yeah, sure.
But if we were going to hate all of them, I understand for personal reasons. If you have personal reasons that you don't like, I understand it fully. But overall, if you're going to despite everybody's music, I heard how can you like that?
No, I fully acknowledge in this case it's. I fully acknowledge in this case it's personal and
I understand. I'm talking overall. Because if overall, if I'm going to listen to everybody's, how can you listen to that music because that and that? The only guys I can mainly listen to is Pat Boone and maybe Swedish Tore Skogman.
and you know what? I think
no R. Kelly.
No, I think it's maybe even worse when you have a personal knowledge about the disgusting aspect of someone that is actually unknown.
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying against you. I'm just saying overall.
No. I know. I'm just saying that, like, when we all know that, for example, R. Kelly is horrible or whatever. Imagine if Elvis had been horrible or whomever. when it's someone that is beloved and has an image, and that you know that that person is still kind of under the radar for this kind of stuff, behavior, that makes it even worse for you when you have it. So
Yeah, but
I'm not
my
rational
father
about
said that
Yeah.
he don't like Elvis anymore because Elvis treated Priscilla
Mm.
horrible and so on. And
that. Oh yeah.
okay, maybe that is the case, but I still like From Elvis in Memphis and the 1968 comebacks.
Yeah.
Well,
And
all right,
you-
Jorgen, it's your turn for a record. So
Yeah.
But Chris maybe had like he has the CD of REM as well.
Oh, I didn't have anything terribly
Chris?
special to say. When I ranked the REM albums in a video, I had it in the bottom half. I clearly don't like the album as much as Richard or Jorgen.
yeah, a lot of people do not like that release. You know, that's fine. I get it. So
I have a genre that I like that I was debating with myself of how I'm going to do, because they're containing a whole lot of names that nobody knows a damn hell about. At least not Stunty might, of course, because he's from the same area, and that's Eurodance music. If I'm showing one Eurodance album after the other, nobody was sitting. So I've decided myself I'm taking a bunch Eurodance album at a time. So you won't be seeing. I'm taking 3 Eurodance album now, and I take 3 more after a while, and so on. This is a truly favorite of mine. Eurodance music, for those who don't know, European dance music in techno style. Swedish Basic Element and the debut Basic Injection. I think this is right in the wall. This is definitely so amazing beat, amazing groove, and the production by Swedish Stefan Andersson is amazing. Another album from 2 Unlimited, Ray and Anita, Real Thing. Not going to say that it's as strong as the No Limit album that I could have shown if I didn't have headache last time. But it is a great album. And also another one that was big in '94, 2 Brothers on the Fourth Floor and their album Dreams. I'm more of a fan than of the normal songs. So I never like that they have to every one of them, no exception, have to squeeze in a couple of remixes at the end. But this is a really great dance album that really relaxing. I think this is relaxing to listen to, actually. Dreamy production. I love dreamy dance production.
well, I'll be showing a few. I got some dance house music from the era as well that I'll be showing. So
Yeah, but what Jorgen showed is a very, very specific niche in all that. That was very popular and very commercial in the 90s, and the 3 he showed are a little bit different from each other, I would say. The first one is absolutely horrible. It's like for me, it's worse than any metal. The two other, no, but more seriously, what is funny, like I can't help but be like a bit cheeky about it. I know a lot of people who like this music, these records, but Jorgen is the very first one who shows them and who seems to love them and not say that it's a guilty pleasure. Because
to be honest, guilty pleasure, that word does
ain't
not
no guilt about it.
I like it or I don't like it. That's the
yeah,
line.
but you like there's this like 2 Unlimited is this hyper like over the top thing that like it wasn't made even in an artistic way. It was purely made. These guys like
I'm very well aware of that.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
know
going
you
to
are.
be. I'm well aware that it's not going to be on any kind of Polar Prize award for it. But it's I like the beat, and I'm the kind of guy that I can't put away stuff that has been before. I like what I like, and I don't put away because '94 has passed. I should supposed to throw it away. Because I that is why I like so many different kind of genres, because I'm building genre upon genre upon genre, because I like what I like and I stand for it.
All right, Chris, what you got for us?
Oh, let's show the Sonic Youth. So this is
yep, I got that one also.
Experimental Jet Set, Trash and No Star. I think people usually talk about Goo and Dirty a little bit more often. I think this might actually be my favorite Sonic Youth album of the 1990s. So,
I like it too. You're right. I think a lot of people, I know in other ratings, this particular release gets dissed in comparison to those other ones. But man, I just, that the second to the last track, In the Mind of the Bourgeois Reader. I mean, I just love the beat and the pounding of Steve Shelley on the drums. It's just I just really like that. But I do like the other ones better than this, but I do like it.
For me, it's the last good Sonic Youth album, and it's the first good Sonic Youth album since Evil. I haven't heard Sonic Evil up to Evil, and I either dislike everything in between this and that, or grew to dislike. I liked Dirty when it came out. I don't care for it now. Experimental Jet Set, Trash and No Star, I still find there's some great melodies on it, some great ideas of songs. It's got quite diversity. It feels like they're not like trying to cater to the sound of the moment. It's a Sonic Youth album, basically, like they used to do.
Yeah, I do enjoy it and consider it.
I don't have it on vinyl.
I don't have it on vinyl either. So, but I do have I've got Dirty and I've got Goo and I've got Daydream Nation on vinyl. So, all right, what do you got then for us, Stunty?
I'm gonna do a Jürgen in a way. If I can find where I put my records, there they are. I'm gonna show 3 records as well, but from the same guy under different names. I'll show first the name under which he's most known, Cabaret Voltaire, The Conversation.
I don't have that one.
It's there. I think it's the. There's one after that called Plasticity, but that's the next. That was the last widely available on vinyl Cabaret Voltaire album, I think, or the next but last, and it's pretty good. It's Cabaret Voltaire fully electronic because now it's only Richard H. Kirk. The 2 other guys have left, and it was always Richard H. Kirk's bands anyways, but now it's fully, there's no singing. It's not club music at all. It's more like ambient techno inspired, and it's pretty good. It's one of these very long albums. I think it's like 4 LPs. 4 LPs. So I think it was a double CD when it came out, and it's on Apollo RNS, so one of the legendary labels from that time. I didn't buy it when it was released, but I bought this when it was released. Richard H. Kirk, Virtual State, his first album under his name on Warp, which I talked about at the beginning of this show. The very first release, or the second release on Warp, was a side project of Richard H. Kirk called Sweet Exorcist, which was actually a reference to LSD. This one is, Virtual State. It's about the paranoia of and the beginning of in the internet, surveillance age, etc. But it's very electronic and very melodic, but it also has some rhythms inspired, I guess, back then you would have said world music, slightly, which would become an increasing topic in his music. And lastly, also this year, under the name Sweet Exorcist, I mentioned the LSD part. He also had a project called Sandoz that released an album only on CD in '94. So he was extremely productive. So Sweet Exorcist, only a double album, this one, on Touch record, which, and this is, Spirit Guide to Low Tech. So this is kind of similar, but more ambient than rhythm-based in a way. And Richard H. Kirk and Cabaret Voltaire has always been a very important band for me. But funnily enough, I really like their house years, like when the stuff they did in the late 80s. I really like the stuff they did during the 90s when it was fully electronic. But the stuff they're the most famous for, like the industrial stuff, is I like it, but that's what I like the least of them, because I think it's the stuff that has. I was about to say the age the most, but it has maybe aged the most bad in a way, because of course the house stuff from the late 80s has aged, but it has aged quite well, I think. But Cabaret Voltaire, legendary for me.
Yeah, I only have started, excuse me, picking up Cabaret Voltaire. I have two of their releases. They're both late 80s releases. So I'm seeing more of it in the stores and now. So I think people are jettisoning their collections.
It's also that the 80s, like from 81 to 86, 87, that was on major labels, and they pressed a lot of these. So, and they were never really that successful back then, these records. They were like they were that band that the big labels, RCA, etc., they had on the payroll or on their rooster, because it was good for the street cred.
Excuse me.
But to be honest, it's these bands that were very experimental and avant-garde in the 70s, and during the 80s, the labels tried to make them like popular. Like, I wouldn't go as far to say as commercial, but like even them, I read the biography of Richard H. Kirk, and they were kind of lost. What they were famous for and what made them famous was not what they were doing in the early mid 80s, and the stuff that came out in the late 80s, early 90s, that's basically them trying to find relevancy again, even if there was some good stuff during the 80s.
Yeah, the two I have are Microphonies and Code.
Yeah, Code has one good track maybe, but a lot of it sounds like any kind of wax tracks, generic industrial rock stuff. Microphonies is a more interesting. Microphonies got like a remix album actually that is quite interesting, but it hasn't aged that well either. It's very much the sound of the time, but not in a timeless way at all for that kind of music. And when
Yeah. Oh, sorry about coughing.
well, you didn't die. That's it.
Well, I'm going to show a few here to get them out of the way too. Because I still have lots of stuff here, but I'm going to go to the dance stuff that I was listening to in the clubs, and I was buying it because these songs brought me out to the dance floor every time. And they're just pop hits. And the first one is Corona, The Rhythm of the Night.
I have it on cassette.
That was I got this, it's got 5 different mixes on it, and but yeah, this was a song that was played a lot in the clubs I was going to and liked it. Rula, Lick It. So this was this has got 7 different mixes on it. I can't remember which one is my favorite mix on it, the one that they played in the club, but that was one that was a nice, nasty, funky song. Of course, it was the real McCoy, and now this is the full release, so this has got 11 songs on it. That's from 94 and 95, the songs, but the hits: Another Night, Come and Get Your Love, Runaway. And then they have another house mix for Another Night at the end. So, but one of my favorite songs that they played in the club. Oh, I love this. And that was Dreamer by Live and Joy. I just loved this when they played this. And then in the 2000s, roughly around 2000, I'll say around 2005 or so, they it came back and it was being played in the clubs. There were some new mixes that they were playing. Yeah, Live Enjoy Dreamer. I just definitely one of my favorite dance hits on there. Which one is that? Is that the Real McCoy or?
It's just here in Sweden, they were actually called MC Sar and the Real McCoy. In Europe, I should say. In Europe, they were called MC Sar and the Real McCoy before they went overboard to the USA. This is the album Space Invaders. I would assume that it is Runaway, Automatic Lover, Love and Devotion, and London Nights. And it's a great album, definitely a great album.
Yeah, Love and Devotion was on this one too. So Automatic Lover, right. So it's probably the same release, just different name and different marketing.
I think that Love and Devotion sounds a bit different in Europe from USA. I think they made the US mix of it.
All right. So what do you got then, Jorgen?
Well, I'm stepping away from the dance music for a bit and showing a band that is not exactly new. They existed. They existed as well. That is the Pretenders and the album Last of Independence. In my opinion, this is a very underrated Pretenders album. I think this is a very, very relaxing and well-made album by Chrissy Hind and Associates. I really like the song Night in My Veins. I think this is amazing. I also have Night in My Veins on vinyl 45. And also I Stand By You on vinyl 45. Very, very amazing guitar playing, amazing production. She sings, of course, good, Chrissy Hind, and this is a sadly forgotten Pretenders album, in my opinion. I think this is really, really great.
Unfamiliar with that particular Pretenders release. I like some Pretenders.
I Stand By You was a pretty good hit in Europe. The rest of the songs were unfortunately not that big. That it was pretty much over the radar, unfortunately.
All right. So, Chris, what's up with you?
Oh, which way do I want to go with my next one? Choices. We'll do something obvious with my next one. I'll do Beastie Boys, Ill Communication. So, I'll be honest. I think this album hasn't aged quite as well as Paul's Boutique and Check Your Head, which were the albums that came immediately before it. But I haven't gotten it on vinyl, but I still have it on CD. You could hardly get away from the Sabotage video if you still looked at MTV at that time point period. And the Grand Royal Records.
Oh, nice. Interesting CD. I guess you could call that a label.
Yeah, they had kind of their own. I mean, they were on Capitol, but they had kind of their own like sort of boutique label. I think I showed a Luscious Jackson a week or two ago. Luscious Jackson were also on this Grand Royal label.
Yeah. Weren't also Brand Van 3000 also released in 94?
Maybe, I don't know.
They were kind of similar.
Probably. So
nice. All right. I see Stunty, you're over there rooting away here, pulling stuff out. What do you got?
Okay, as Jason was talking nonsense in the pin gallery. No, I'm joking. Yeah, some proper techno. As we were talking about techno, so let's show some. 93 is really 94. Yeah, like there are a lot of big names in techno that were in transition, like Plastic Man, for example. He was at the end of his acid techno that was kind of all the tracks sounding the same, in my opinion. But stuff that was really paving the way for the future, like probably one of the most influential techno album, this from Detroit, Robert Hood, Internal Empire. Robert Hood is still doing to this day the same music as he was doing back then, because it's so minimal that it's actually timeless. It was a major influence on me and many others, but in my music making. And the other side of that would be Robert Armani from Chicago, who wasn't doing house, contrary to the most people in Chicago, but was doing what we used to call basement techno, which was basically techno, but with the jack-in, like body music, a little rougher than the Detroit stuff, less about science fiction, dreamy, and all that, and quite aggressive. Like basically what was being played in the raves in the Midwest. And then you got classic Detroit techno, but this is when Detroit techno gets almost ambient. Sonic Sunset by Model 500, Ron Atkins, basically the grandfather of techno, the guy who did the first Detroit techno record. This is a double LP on RNS in Belgium. There was strong connections between Belgium and Detroit, because there was a distributor in Belgium that paid for a lot of the releases, even the US releases, the one that was released only there. Another techno legend from Detroit, but also released on Warp, which I talked about, Kenny Larkin. This is his first album. This was released on Wax Trax in the US. This is Warp 20, so quite early Warp, of course. Like deep techno, melodic and sexy. This guy did a couple of other albums, then he quit techno for a little while and became a stand-up comedian in Los Angeles. Not that successful, since we haven't heard of Kenny Larkin in any other fashion than techno. And then some stuff from England influenced by that, like the first Bendelou album. Bendelou was like really crazy techno, quite much faster than the American stuff, often at 140 BPM, when most US techno was at best 135. And yeah, this is really good. And this is quite unusual, because up until 94 is kind of the year when a lot of these bands who were releasing singles, EPs, started to release albums pretty regularly. And then one of the legends of UK techno, Luke Slater, under his Seventh Plane alias. Seventh Plane is a reference, because this was his alias that was more atmospheric, more ambient in a way, more melodic. And seventh in techno, everyone thinks who knows techno knows that seventh is a very important number for techno, because Detroit is the seventh city, and so Seventh Plane is the planes around the seventh city. So something a little cooler than his usual stuff that was pretty hammering techno. And yeah, I could go on with dozens of albums like that, but that was for Jason, I guess.
That store that I go to on occasion here in Chicago has a whole section for Warp Records.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they are really the most influential label of the 90s and 2000s, and they branch out to all kinds of music, like classical, hip hop, pop, rock, noise, just about anything. So in that sense, for me, they are historically the most successful independent label, because they still exist after 30 years. They branched out to produce very critically acclaimed movies. They have like the biggest touring agency in the world for independent music. And it's a crazy success story, Warp.
That's one of the frustrating things too about that store, because he's got some sections that are, they're labels, but then he also has all the others. This is 80s house or whatever, and his staff. I was talking to the guy. His staff frustrates him at times because he tells them these labels I want you to put together in this section, but they don't. They end up putting it in some other section. So it is frustrating at times going through the records that he has there because of that. But anyway, let's see. I'm going to go with vinyl this time. I've been showing some CDs. This was a recent acquisition for me, but it was from 1994. This is a crazy ass record. I really like it. And that is this collaboration with Jello Biafra and Mojo Nixon.
Oh, nice.
Prairie Home Invasion. This is just such, I like it. All of it, the final song, Buy My Snake Oil is how it starts off, and then it ends with Will the Fetus Be Aborted? And then everything in between is just amazing stuff. And it was the first time I knew about Jello Biafra, but I had never really heard Mojo Nixon before. So this was my exposure to Mojo Nixon, who I find quite interesting as well. So I'll be looking for some of his solo work or whatever. I guess he's kind of like an Ed Sanders type, who he does a little bit of the psychedelic country, redneck satire kind of thing. And then I guess Mojo Nixon does non-music stuff as well. I don't know that much about him. I'm just someone new for me. But yeah, this one here, Prairie Home Invasion. It's a hoot. I like it.
Well,
all right, moving on. No comments. So
no, it's I've never heard it, but it looks like a very fun record. Like I would love to give it a listen.
Never heard of it.
I'm guessing it has something to offend everyone.
Yeah, pretty much, and and it's just Jello Biafra's unique singing style, and it's kind of all over. It's probably more rockabilly than anything else, but it's just it's good. I do strongly recommend it. Yeah, and I've got another collaboration that Biafra did that I bought at the same time as this one that's just got a really disturbing cover. The cover is like really freaky. But I won't pull that out because it would take me a while.
Oh, how convenient, Jason. I show all these techno albums and you don't comment anything, and now fucking fraud, Jason.
Yeah, Psych Country. Yeah, okay, yeah. All right, so Jorgen.
I don't know if Stunt is going to leave us now because I have another Britpop album. It's not a waste.
It depends. If you show Blur, which we know you want, I would be fine with that.
Okay. I got a surprise. This is not Blur. This is a band that when they came, I have
Please not Gene or something like that.
No, I don't have
Sorry.
Suede?
When this band came, I have hard time listening to his singing voice because I thought he was crying. But once again, a friend of mine on the school that I met, this lady friend, showed me that it's a really great band. And we're talking Suede and the album Dog Man Star. I realized that Brett Anderson's voice is very sensitive instead of very annoying. I think it's a real relaxing. I really like their sound. I like their relaxing style, little David Bowie style. And
you can't say that his voice is relaxing.
I said that the sound was, I said that the sound was relaxing.
Yeah. Thank you.
I've grown to like his voice. Is part of the charm of the band. But the Wild Ones, We Are Pigs.
It's got one great song though. This one, The Drowners, is a great song.
Yeah, that is not on this one though. But this is not their best album, but it is a really good album, a really good early album.
That's the second album. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I would have shown the first one if I was here in '93, but it's a great album, and I will return to Suede. You can bank on that.
I bought the first album of Suede when it came out, but like for me, it's the whole like the voice. Like I like the guitar guy, and like the first album was a bit noisy, but the problem with Suede for me is that in French, Suede means Sweden.
I know, I know. You hear that on Eurovision, Suede 12 points, and I never thought that why doesn't Brett Anderson give the old share?
All right. Well then, Chris, you still got the alt rock?
Wait, just I'm curious, you guys. Were you aware of Suede in the US?
Yeah, I knew of them, but I am unfamiliar.
We were aware of them. I think I had gotten I had a subscription to a magazine for a while that would send you like the promo stuff they got from record labels. They would send it to you as like a gift with your subscription, so they didn't have to hold on to it. I got like a London Suede. They were called the London Suede in America.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. I had a cassette single by them, so that I'd gotten sent for free. But I'm going to show a recent acquisition of mine that's more of a post-punk record. I believe this is the last album that this band put out, and I didn't know about them until fairly recently. The Dog-Faced Hermans with those.
Oh yeah.
So
they're from Switzerland, right, or something?
No, I think they're from Scotland, but they have some Dutch members. So I think there are some people from Scotland and some people from the Netherlands in the band, and they've got kind of they have one of the people in the band plays trumpet, so you have trumpet kind of coming in. For some reason, and I might be crazy, but it sometimes reminds me of some of those like late 80s weird SST records, which are sort of post-punk, but have like weird elements of jazz kind of thrown in. Not like jazz like our friends talk about on other channels, but like really kind of weird stuff. So I'll be honest, I've only listened to this a few times because I got it fairly recently. It came out on Alternative Tentacles. I was ordering some other stuff from them, and this was on sale, and I said, "Hey," and got it. So
they were very, very popular here in France in the indie noise scene. I saw them live a few times, and they were always great. Really, really good band.
Yeah, I never saw them live, so they never really made it big in the US.
Yeah,
when I said they were popular in France, I remember I was telling you that scene was at best 1,000 people in France. So the first time I saw them, it was in a squat, like in a crack house with 30 people in the audience. So,
all right. Then that brings us up with you, Stunty.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess could I show? Yeah, I can show this one. Like one of my favorite, like a project by how do I open this? Yeah. Spectrum.
Oh, I'm
Spectrum.
slow. Sorry, I'm slow.
Yeah. High Lows and Heavenly Blows, which is probably their most rock and roll album, but like rock and roll ballads. It's like very lush. It's almost not rhythmic. It's well, it's for the people who don't know, it's the Sonic Boom from the Spaceman 3, and it's it's like, imagine ambient Buddy Holly,
Ambient Buddy Holly. That's pretty good.
yeah.
Ambient Buddy Holly.
No, but it's really got this kind of girly rock and roll, very, not necessarily, yeah, almost family friendly, but through ketamine.
Is it Buddy Holly you calling girly rock and roll?
Yes, yeah, he has some compared to others, yeah, but it's I'm not talking necessarily in the strict historical sense, but compared to compared to the Stooges, yeah. But yeah, it's an album that, like, I remember when it was released, it was quite. I don't think it was a big album, but like it was like a secret treasure in a way. Like I remember the people who had it. Like, yeah, this was music that would have been perfect for the soundtrack of Twin Peaks whenever there's like a romantic or dating scene, for example. And but there's also something a little bit off on it, like the ketamine part. Like there's something a little bit like dark in the background, even if like no, it's actually very major keys and stuff like that, and elegiac. And yeah, it's a great album, great cover. Yeah,
I like quirky. I like bands that they're, that's a good word that when it's appropriate. I like bands that that are quirky in some weird way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna do a couple here and kind of go in different directions with these CDs before I go back to my records again, and then I got another CD. But yeah, pop music, and I don't know if you could call it Britpop or whatever, but this Erasure, I say, this record, to me, this release is it's just so beautiful. All the songs to me are just absolutely, and I see Jorgen also has it. So yeah, it's just the first time I heard this was somebody I was dating at the time, and I had to get a copy for myself. It was just absolutely amazing. Love that, and this was, I think, my first Erasure. And then after that, I got Pop the Hits, and then I got the ABBA-esque, and then I got that eponymous one that came out. I'm not sure if it was right after this, or maybe it was a couple releases after. I love that one too. That's an amazing listen all the way through. But yeah, Erasure, and then Blur, Parkland. And the one song in particular they played in the clubs all the time, girls and boys. There were some dance mixes of that that were made of that. And so that was a great song in the clubs. But all the other songs are really good on it as well. And it's a well-paced album too, I think, in terms of, the flow of the songs. So I do like me Blur. Now, here's something completely different. This was released in 1994, and it's a compilation of Gregorian chant. And I do like me Gregorian chant. I do like classic choral music and chant and things like that. I don't show very many. Most of my classical orchestral records, of course, were recordings that were made, many, many years ago. So it doesn't show up often, when we're going through the 1990s.
If I'm not wrong, that one was very high on the Swedish album charts in '94.
Yeah, it did well here in the U.S. as well. I don't remember where it charted or anything, but it was a big seller in the U.S. and the Benedictine monks of Santo Domingo de Silos. So very, very, I don't know. I like chanting in part also because of my own Buddhist practice, chanting and that kind of voice reciting is very calming and very soothing, and it really helps to relax and calm the mind, and it's so beautiful and sonorous. I really like that. So let's go through those. What was I saw something here. Right, yeah, we already did that. So what's up with what do you got, Jorgen?
Well, you stole I was supposed to show Erasure next. So that's why it was so close.
Preempted you. I was wondering why you hadn't had. I'm sitting there going, Jorgen's going to show Erasure. I know. So I'm going to wait. But then you didn't. So I thought.
So I'm taking the next one then. And another oldie guy that has been with for a while. I'm showing Brian Ferry's Mamuna. And I've heard some songs on it on Swedish radio. And back then, 94, I was turning 20. And I thought it was okay, but not something that I would buy the album of until I got. I borrowed the album on a library, and I think a couple of years later, and I listened to it, and I realized that this was a really, really great album, really, really relaxing. Having the title track Mamuna is a really great one. So really relaxing, very well made, typical Brian Ferry relaxing style. So now I have it both on cassette.
I've never listened to Brian Ferry's solo stuff.
Well, he had "Slave to Love" was his biggest solo hit, but a lot of albums released with this kind of relaxing, laid-back style, and Mamuna is extremely great album.
I guess if he was a woman, you would perhaps call him a chanteuse.
Chanteuse.
If you were a woman.
So Chris' word of the day was deluxe. Jorgen's is relaxing. I wonder
what my word of the day is going to be.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. So, Chris, what do you have for us?
Okay, this will probably be the last one I'll show because I think I'm going to have to duck out here in a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and show Crooked Rain by Pavement. So
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I showed or somebody else showed Slanted and Enchanted a few weeks ago. And so I got this as a gift from somebody fairly recently on vinyl. I've had it on CD forever. Depending on what day you ask me, I'll tell you that either this or Slanted and Enchanted is my favorite Pavement album. Like a couple of weeks ago, I told you Slanted was my favorite. I think today Crooked Rain is my favorite. So
I wanted to get Slanted and Enchanted. I'm not exactly sure. Normally I listen to all the records that I pull, for the show during the week leading up to it. So because I'm like, in this case, this is something I haven't listened to in a long time, and I didn't get a chance to listen to it this week. So yeah, I got nothing to say about it other than I think I was trying to remember if it was something, it was this one or if there was another record from another band that when I bought it, I was kind of disappointed in it, but maybe it's not this one. I think it might have been another band.
For me, I bought this on blindly, Pavement. I bought it on release day, so I got the first edition of it, and I was extremely disappointed by it. for me, it's kind of like it's funny. Jorgen showed no, who showed Parkland? You showed
I did.
Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Parkland.
Art life.
Park Life. Yeah, Park Life for me
Yeah,
is
Park
an
Life,
album
yeah.
that is like it's really weird that it gets put in the Britpop category because even Boys and Girls shows that it's not at all a Britpop album. It's something completely different. And this for me, this is like Modern Life is Rubbish, the second Blur album. It's like the first one, oh, it's cool and it's fun. And this one is, for me, it doesn't have the edge of the first album. It doesn't have the urgency of it. It's almost like their Beatles album in a way. And I don't hate it, but it's yeah. It's a bit too. Yeah.
Crooked Rain is the album that if somebody who had sort of mainstream taste in music asked me what Pavement album to listen to, I would give them Crooked Rain over Slanted and Enchanted. So,
yeah, I still need to get Slanted and Enchanted. I would like to get that one.
I think Crooked Rain is a bit more commercial sounding. I don't think it's an out commercial album. But
no. But don't you think that Woo Wee Zoe is also it's like for me Woo Wee Zoe is like Last Splash from the Breeders. It's like so melodic, so full of quirks, and it's joyous, and so, which makes it almost not commercial but very approachable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe that's going to be your word, Stunty. Is
quirky.
Yeah. But I'm gonna bow out for this week, guys.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining us.
So I'm gonna show a hip hop album, one of my favorite hip hop albums ever, from Shaki. So not that common in the early 90s, a female rap album. This is on Imago, which also had Henry Rollins the Rollins Band, and which I think was a label started by Madonna or her producer or something. This is the first and only album she did under that name, because later on she converted to Islam and was called Hanifa Wahida and did fantastic music. Before that, she was in the Brooklyn Funk All Stars, which was kind of a funky hip hop brass band. Pretty good, but like this is basically the birth of the Village, New York Village hip hop, like the conscious rap, with when like the rapping and is kind of blurred between poetry, street poetry, slam, and all that. And these features also, surprisingly, this is produced by the guy who went on to produce Anti-Pop Consortium later on, probably one of the most influential, if not the most influential, hip-hop band from the late 90s. And these features also some people who went on to be very famous underground rappers. In the very first on Wax credit, there's Necro on this in '93. There's the two of the guys from Anti-Pop Consortium, Priest and Beans, and just a bunch of others. And what's also very original with Shaki is that her voice is very low, so it's kind of androgynous, and also a feature that is quite uncommon for rap. But it's a proper rap record. Like, it's just that it's got some like trumpet playing sometimes, but it is by no way something else that tries to be hip hop. It is at its core hip hop record from hip hop people, but it's just like, it's an album that should have come out maybe 4 or 5 years later, and then it would have been successful, because as you can see on vinyl, this was only released with, they didn't even do an artwork for it. They just put like a sticker, if you can see here on it. But it's a full album. And
really, yeah, it's packaged like a 12-inch.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. I'm kind of surprised. Excuse me. that Jorgen or Chris didn't mention this one. Yeah, maybe I'm going to steal another one from you, Jorgen. But Cranberries.
No, I don't want that one. I don't like it.
Oh, this is quite a good record in my opinion. I mean, there's of course the song Zombie, which is just I don't know, it might sound trite and cliche, but it's an epic, to me it's an epic classic of a song. But the other song that was on here, that it's so funny when I read comments about and interpretations of the song, the icicle melts. I mean, so many people think, oh yes, this is an anti-abortion song, and I'm like, no, this is about a real case, about a real kidnapping and murder. And her singing on both of those songs, but her singing throughout the entire album is just so. It's hard. It's I guess I don't know. I don't have the words to really convey the strength I hear in her voice. But all the songs, I think they're all really good. But my favorites are probably, well, No Need to Argue, the closer. The titular song is really quite good. But Zombie and the Icicle Melts, and Ridiculous Thoughts, or those are a couple of my favorite ones on there. But yeah, I do want to get their other album. What is it? Everybody's Doing It, so why can't we, or something like that. I wouldn't mind picking up that one as well. But I thought, hey, this was a nice limited edition on some blue vinyl. I thought, what the hell, I'm gonna get it, and I like it. I do really like this particular record.
I'm not going to say that I dislike the entire Cranberries band. I mean, I like Linger. I like their songs from '99 were a really great song. But when it comes to Zombie, I have hard time listening to Dolores O'Riordan's moaning. Zombie, I think that is. Oh no, God, shut up! I thought the entire time it was popular.
It's a powerful and emotional song, and she certainly, to me, she's diving into it with, her very fiber. And in some ways, the way that Brent, excuse me, Brent, and last name is escaping me, from Slint, the way he just really takes his voice and dives into Good Morning Captain. It's a little bit of a there's some real guttural emotion going in there. So
for me, Zombie is not an exception. I dislike her voice on every song she's on. I just don't like her voice at all.
I do like her voice. I like it. It suits their music.
Well, it's actually, it's not her voice I dislike. It's her singing, because there's kind of an affection in it that I don't like.
Yeah, very Irish for sure. Because a lot of times, with some Irish and Scottish singers, when they're singing, you don't hear the Irish brogue or the Scottish brogue like you hear when they speak. And with her voice, it comes through all the way through for sure. So they're Irish, not Scottish, are they? I thought
they're Irish.
Yeah, they're Irish. The other band, the Proclaimers, their Scottish brogue definitely comes through in their singing as well. And I do like the Proclaimers. Anyway, Jorgen, get some more for us.
I'm going to finish up my Eurodisco part. So here comes some untrendy stuff again.
Untrendy.
Pharaoh, German band that had ancient Egypt as their gimmick, but the music was really, really nice and really relaxing Eurodance music.
Again, relaxing and Eurodance are for me the two last words I would associate together. But I think I understand what you mean.
Let's just say,
Jason, don't you mean 500 miles? I was just talking to Jason. Go ahead.
Okay.
Let's just say that I'm not a person on a dance floor. I'm more of a guy. When I hear great atmospheric dance music, it is relaxing for me.
Fair enough.
And here's the same. Max, also from
Ecstasy
Germany.
helps with that too.
To the Maximum. They had some great hits, two big hits in the 94. No More I Can Stand It and Get Away. And we have genuine one of the icons in the Eurodance, Master Boy, Different Dreams, Feel the Heat
I
of
like
the
that
Night.
cover.
Yeah.
Very
Also,
jokerish and ghoulish.
yeah, it's well, I think they had it on almost any cover that they had. Actually, it's one of the what's the gimmick in the 90s.
Yeah,
that was the.
I like this album. I like they have a heavy Eurobeat, and also Magic Affair, who was created by Eric Stab, who was one of the members of a German synth-pop group called Mysterious Art. And it was a kind of side project of him. So they had the same initial, MA, Mysterious Arts Magic Affair, and it was meant to be that way. And Mysterious Art was famous for having a hit called Das Omen, a real great pioneering synth-pop genre that was sadly forgotten though. And then it came Omen 2, and Eric Stab formed this Magic Affair and released Omen 3. That I think is their worst song, actually. I think Omen 1 is far better. But the rest of the album is really, really great and nice Eurodance music. Omen, the story continues.
all right.
Oh, from my Eurodance days, I discovered Eurodance big the year after that. So more Eurodance in 94. You have been warned.
I don't have any specific Eurodance releases, but again, somebody burned a bunch of CDs for me that are just compilations of Eurodance, and I have no idea what's on it because they just gave me the CDs, no track listings. But it's stuff that I put on once in a while, so because I do enjoy it. Transient Show.
I'm gonna go with the last album by a band that was quite famous in the underground rock scene.
Cop Shoot Cop.
Yeah, Release. Cop Shoot Cop started out as like a noise industrial rock band that was famous for their percussive prowess. Like the drummer was really, really good, and had like lots of percussions that were self-made, and he knew his kit had like no one else. They also had a sampler and a really good singer, which is not always the case in this kind of music. He had a personality. You could say that he had a kind of a bluesy voice, close to Michael Gira from the Swans. Less, but a lot more like aggressive in a way. But this is their fourth and final album, where there is actually much more diversity in the tracks. It's still a very Cop Shoot Cop album, but it's got like some blues influence in it and some jazz as well. And I saw them live touring this, and it's still in my mind like probably one of the top 10 live shows I've ever seen, even if there was like almost no one in the venue. I guess a lot of the people who loved them earlier on thought that this was kind of this was too different from what they did before. It with distance, it wasn't that different. It's not necessarily more polished, it's just more accomplished, and so that they can do more stuff. Like most of their early albums had kind of one or two or three songs, and the same over and over. And this one has got like 12, 13 songs, and they all sound quite unique from each other. And it's a great album.
I'm learning more and more and more here about some of this music that I am unfamiliar with.
And actually, in the past 2 or 3 years, the core members of this and the remaining core members of Unsane have started a band together called the Human Impact, I think. Human Impact or Human something. That is pretty good, actually. And it is kind of the sum of both aesthetics. So, yeah.
All right. So if you've got let's breeze through several, copies here, and then we're at 2 hours and 20 minutes. So, and I could probably do 2 more rounds. So
I'm fine with that.
Somebody did mention has anybody shown this? Because it was 1994 release, and it was, and that's Neil Young's "Sleeps with Angels." Interesting thing about this record is he's got both, as far as I know. Someone may correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe Neil saved a digital master and an analog master. And I know that there is a vinyl pressing of this that I would love to get. But it's like expensive, and really expensive. And also the other thing that makes it expensive is the only vendors I see selling it are in Great Britain and or elsewhere in Europe. And when it does show up in an American vendor, it's still like really, really pricey. And I have it on CD, so I'm really not prepared to plunk down a couple $100 for this. But I love the mood of this recording, the darkness, the spareness of some of the compositions, which is, it's Crazy Horse. You've got San Pedro and Talbot and Molina playing with him, but it doesn't have that same, it's got the Crazy Horse sound, but it's still a little different. It's just a little darker, and as I say, a little spare in some of the things. And of course, part of it is an homage to Kurt Cobain. It was released after he died. And yeah, I see Lemmy talking about Change Your Mind. That song really is a song that whenever I listen to that, I get lost in it. I fall into the melody, and but there are other songs too about the Safeway cart. It's another song that I just again fall into, and I am just lost in it. The one song is that I think sometimes, and Trans Am is a good one too. Again, another really dreamy song. I think some people think Piece of Crap is a piece of crap. It is kind of a throwaway song in some respects. But it's I don't hate it. I think it's perfectly fine. And then speaking of, Kurt Cobain, I haven't removed the shrink yet from this, so forgive me, Stunty.
Yeah.
But the Unplugged, Nirvana Unplugged was released in '94, and really, really, it's not strictly unplugged. I mean, he's playing acoustic, and he plays an electric guitar on that. But it's, I love his cover of "The Man Who Sold the World." I love his Oh, he does a couple other covers on here. Lake of Fire. Is that an early Nirvana or is that a cover? I can't remember now. But yeah, really intimate sounding record. And one that
It's
I
interesting.
really enjoy.
You say
What's that?
intimate. You find it intimate.
Yes.
Okay.
It is, and yet when he's playing, well, of course, you look at the stage too. It is pretty, the staging with the fake plants or whatever all around and all that. But it is a very personal album in many ways, and you hear Kurt Cobain, he's still singing with his unique style that there is that intensity to it, but it's not frenzied. It's not like they're doing a major electric show or whatever, but the intensity is still there. And his attention, I mean, he even makes the comment he's expecting to screw up a song, and then he goes through and he sings it and carries it off. Just maybe he did screw it up, but I didn't hear. So definitely, I do like it, and I'll take the shrink off now. I mean, I don't know why I've left that.
I don't have it. I want to have it. I've wanted to have it for a long time now. When it was released a little bit after his death, and
Right.
if I remember correctly, and I hated the idea of that album back then. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. It felt like, plus also I guess it was too like weird, like this, like a posthumous album coming out, like if it felt all kinds of wrong to me back then. And also for me, like when I listen to it, I now I love it, but when I listen to it, it feels like it's their album that feels the least intimate to me, but because it feels like this music belongs on a big stage with a big audience, whereas all these the other albums they've done, I can imagine them like in a small club, like a rectangular room with low ceiling, and them just jamming it in front of like 80 people, and that's enough. This one it craves for me is more widescreen than the stuff from before. But yeah, it's good because it's also an album that allows many different takes. It's a commission also. It's not really an album. It's basically MTV asking them, can you fill in 1 hour without for our concept of Unplugged? Because now it's the MTV Unplugged of Nirvana, but it was a whole series. That's the one that everyone remembers, but they did a whole series of that back then.
Oh yeah, I've watched quite a few. This is the only Unplugged that I ever wanted to get. I have watched probably most of them that when they were being aired. But yeah, this was the only one I was really interested in getting. I mean, Eric Clapton did one, and I don't know. It is kind of a it's an artificial environment in which the artist is being presented. But he carries it off with such relaxed aplomb that I get that feeling of, this is like you were talking, like in an intimate club, and it isn't overtly orchestrated.
More than their regular albums, though.
Yeah.
And for those who wonder why I don't speak, I haven't anything to say in this subject.
Oh, we know.
Well, what do you have to say? What do you got?
I got a trio albums in my last round. Is that word made any sense? First, a band also that I never ever thought that I would collect or have anything with, but that I think it was after 2005 or something like that I started to realize that, hey, this band is good. And then all of a sudden, I started to like those songs that I'd hated 10 years before that. And that is the Prodigy, Music for a Jilted Generation.
Wow, that is kind of stepping outside of your normal zone.
Yeah, somewhat, but I like big beat style, and
Yeah.
this is close pre-big beat. But what I like about Prodigy is that it is unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen, and it is a real great groove. And I really like No Good Start to Dance. I think it's really, really great. Voodoo People, and I like Prodigy. I think it is they're really, really groovy. Rest in peace, Keith Flint. We have an album that I mentioned in '92, Madonna's Bedtime Stories. Madonna once again on a soul trip with.
Oh, was that released in '92 or '94? I mean.
Yep.
Oh, see, I had that pulled out because we were for something else. The Gunkles, we were doing an episode about Madonna's releases, and I had it pulled out, but I forgot that it was in '94 to bring it back into this one. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
It's produced by Nelly Hooper. We have here from Soul to Soul fame. We have Babyface, Dallas Austin, Dave Jam Hall. Some really nice groovy producers of R&B, and it is a really, really great groove in this one. And with that, I also have vinyl.
Well, before you move on that one, with the Bedtime Stories, when I was re-listening to it for that other video, I was remarking, wow, because I heard the dance mixes that were going on in the clubs, and then I listened to this in the studio release, and I like them, but I'm going like, whoa, this is really quite different with some of those songs, especially the one Bedtime Stories.
I don't listen to mixes at all, but I think if you take a listen to, for instance, Human Nature, it sounds a whole lot different on this album than on single when it was released on single a year later, and it is really much more groovy R&B sound in this version.
Yeah.
And speaking of Human Nature, I do have it on 7-inch.
Yeah. There's another song on that too that is too personal for me.
Okay. And we have also Bedtime Story, the title track on 7-inch. So this is a really great one. Also, when I'm at it, when it comes to singles, I will also show that there are exceptions to every genre. There are golden styles, golden corns in every genre that is exception to the rule. Mine, when it comes to grunge, or what you would like to call it, is Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun, that I actually do like very, very much.
Well, it's a ballad.
You might call it that, but it's a great song.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a great song, but it's a ballad. It's I'm not surprised you like it. It's a great ballad pop song.
Let's just say that I have a hard time seeing a couple doing love dancing on the floor to this one, but then Level 42. This is the final album they made before their first breakup. Then they made one album in 2009, I think. But here was the last album. It's only Mark King and Mike Lineup left, and they will later also have a real nice feud over the name, Level 42. But this was a failure, but it is a really great, relaxing album with very smooth and more of a jazzy soul style than their previous more commercial stuff. So Forever Now.
and it's got a very misleading cover because it actually looks like a lot of those techno albums I've shown. Like it's really much a cover.
Yeah, that cover makes me think that music is intense. This is going to be, you know.
I can agree that a lot of times those bands that were in the late period of their career made covers that made no sense to draw attention of the eyes.
Yeah, because it's the aesthetic of '94. That's it. Like if you think Wipeout, Warp Records, the stuff that is cutting edge back then, it's exactly this kind of artwork. Yeah.
Yeah. But some really great tracks. I really like the title track. It's a really great one. So highly recommended.
I want to ask you, can you go back to your Prodigy and tell me if it's these tracks?
I can find it. There. Yeah, that one is on, of course.
And does it have this one?
One Love and Everybody Everybody in the Place is not here.
Okay.
But the other two are.
Okay, because these are okay. Because I think the one you showed is a compilation of their early singles, but not every single one. Because this one is yeah, it's a compilation. Yeah, the first proper album came after that, has a painting on the cover, and these came out as singles, as EPs actually, and they are like, yeah, for me, yeah, this is from 92, 93, 93, and but there were back then.
If it would be a collection, this would most likely contain Out of Space, and it doesn't. This is a studio album from '94.
No, because it contains these which were EPs that were sold not as singles but as EPs from and this is from '92. So, but I mean, it's not about a dispute about when is this from. It's that like that music was really crazy back then. Like Prodigy for me is like the embodiment of what is the craziest aspect of dance music from that area. Right after that, they would cop out and start to include rock and alternative rock in it with Firestarter and all that, which is for me like not what Prodigy is about. It's like the craziness of how fast it is, the chipmunk voice, and the impossibly fast melodies. Sorry.
When they started to involve rock, it was then they became big beat, breakbeat. For real.
Well, yeah. Some kind of weird crossover that like it was massively successful. But the stuff that you showed, that was massively successful in the UK and in the UK only back then, because it was so unique.
I took a look at No Go Start Dance on Wikipedia, and it was released May '94 as a second single.
I have it on like okay, it says 93 on my record here. I have it in my hands.
Well, the mix could have been.
Anyway,
Jason is backing up Jorgen on that record, so I don't know.
Of course he is, but like I have the record in my hands and I have my eyes, so like.
Could be a promo copy from before May.
No, it's the yeah.
The song that is so deeply personal to me from Bedtime Stories is "Love Tried to Welcome Me." That song hits close to home with me. So anyway,
so I'm going to show two albums that have like a common theme. Both are electronic and both are kind of experimental, and both were instrumental in introducing this kind of music to the mainstream audience. First is Biosphere, his second album on RNS, Patashnik, a double album, and it was instrumental because the single of it, one of the single, Novelty Waves, was used in the worldwide Levi's TV commercial from back then. which was this black and white Americana setting when a guy at the local grocery sells condoms to a young kid, looks at him like he's a no good delinquent, and later on he opens the door because his young daughter is getting picked up by her date, and it's the guy who picked up the condoms. It's a black and white Americana TV commercial that was everywhere, and they played for 2 years. And as the contrast to the Americana, it was like a techno tune, which it was Biosphere. And it's a great tune, but the whole album is great with some really, really creepy ambient and some very beautiful elegiac Brian Eno-esque ambient as well. It's not my favorite Biosphere album because it's really his album that sounds the most like it's from when it was done, but it's still pretty good. And another one that is a little way more experimental is Oval, Systemisch. Oval was a duo. I think they might still exist, from Germany. This is their first album. It was released on Thrill Jockey in the US, the label from Chicago. This is basically music using as the sonic source the sound of CDs skipping. So it's basically only made out of glitches, but somehow it manages to sound like a weird ambient Hawaiian electronic music. It's very soothing, very relaxing, in the most counterintuitive way. And this was used for at least a decade by Armani, the luxury brand, for their male perfume TV advertising, Amarige, which was like, you saw like male, like very good-looking men in shorts, like swimming shorts, slow motion, black and white, diving into the water, and you had this music in the background. And that was on regular TV at dinner time for 10 years at least. And it's one of my favorite albums of the 90s.
Jason wonders if you have shown any Coil or Nurse with Wounds yet.
I haven't shown any Coil because 94, there's no Coil album from 94. And Nurse with Wound, no, but I have shown Robert, from the stuff that he mentioned, I have shown Robert Armani, Bandulu. I have shown, what else? I have shown, go back and look, Jason. There was I showed Robert Armani. I showed, yeah.
I have some
later.
I have some Coil and Nurse with Wound coming in the mail.
Ah, which ones?
Let me check here. Where is, I have Homotopy to Marie.
Homotopy, yeah.
And the new Backwards,
which is an interesting album because it was originally released in a 4 LP box set as one LP. The 3 other LP in the box set were another LP, and now it's the expanded version of that.
Right, it's a 3 LP one.
Yeah,
blah, yeah.
And it features the 2 songs that was exclusive to the CD, plus a bunch of other variations. I will tell you that I'm happy with the version I have. I don't need that one. But it doesn't mean that. It's just that the essence of that album is already in a single LP. I think it's there's one song that I like of the stuff I don't have on it, but I don't think I'm gonna get that one. But yeah, it's some of the stuff that was on the original LP is some of the best stuff of theirs. So you're in for a treat. Homotopy to Marry is a more difficult album. It's more of a collage album.
That's okay. I don't mind difficult.
And I'm preparing you.
I got some others here. I think I'll breeze through them so then you guys can finish.
The Oval thing, I think you should check it out, Richard.
What is it called again?
Systemish. And I think it's still in print or like you can find it easily in Chicago since it was issued by a Thrill Jockey. And you would maybe also like the commercial.
All right. So interesting. Couple of these I'll go through quickly because I didn't listen to them this week. But this is one that this is where are my buttons here? This is a Marillion album, Brave, which is kind of an interesting album because, I mean, this is post Fish, so this is with Hogarth is the singer, and it's a concept album about a girl who had suffered terrible abuse and runs away, and you know, her experiences on the street and trying to find, you know, the situations that she encounters. So it's not necessarily an easy listen, but it is a very enjoyable listen. It's a very good album. I like the way it's put together. And it's the only post-Fish Marillion I have. I don't have any other Marillion other than earlier stuff with Fish. This is I'm kind of surprised maybe Chris didn't show this. The Cramps, Flame Job, that was 1994. Oh God, the Cramps are so good. I just love it. I just, it's fun music, and just nice rockabilly, punkish rockabilly. It's just, yeah, I do enjoy that. This is probably the only real jazz album, I think, that's showing, and it's Rio Fukui.
Oh, I have that.
Yeah, my favorite tune. The first time, I mean, Rio Fukui is so interesting because he taught himself to play piano when he was 17, and then he released his first piano record when he was like 21 or 22. And it's just absolutely amazing piano player. Incredible. I love his stuff. Then what do we got here? Someone did mention, wondering if anyone was going to show this. I didn't listen to it this week, but Jeff Buckley, Grace, his one album, you know, before he then died. It's been a really long time since I've listened to this, and
I might surprise someone, but I actually have that one.
Oh, you do? It's yeah, I haven't listened to it in so long, so I can't remember what my real impression is of it. I think it's okay. I think it was one of those records that I bought because you know, the word on the street was, oh, this is an album you have to have. And after I got it, I'm kind of like, yeah, it's good, but I don't have to have it.
I'm going to confess that I actually got it for free from a friend, and it is in a part of the CDs that I haven't listened to yet.
Okay.
But I do have it.
And then we've got Shellac at Action Park. So this is sort of a ongoing project with that Steve Albini has. You know, that they get together once in a while and they make a record.
That was just his new band back then. That was the follow-up to Big Black.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, he had that ridiculous Rape Man in between.
I think Rape Man was before.
But I remember watching he was giving some speech at some record organization in Australia, and he kind of introduced the fact that Shellac was it was a project that was like an open-ended thing, that they would get together once in a while to make some music, but it wasn't like they were all involved in doing so many other things that they just kind of got together when they could. And so
when these were released, I remember in the press, like the interviews, like this is the new Steve Albini band. Maybe, of course, you have to hype it and to sell it, but yeah.
So this is it's been the project that he's been doing since, but he's been doing so much other. I say circuit, but I don't want it to sound like he's part of some circuit tour or something like that. But he does a lot of talks and presentations about the recording industry and things like that, and then he gets together with these other guys as Shellac, and they make a record once in a while.
And to Alambic and Bodo, yes, Coil did and the Angelic Conversation in '94, but it was only released on CD, and I only show vinyl.
So that's what I have for all of my material. What are you going to close us out with, Jorgen?
4 CDs in different.
Well, actually, Stunty will close us out, but this is where you close it. Okay.
My final 4.
4? You showed like 7 the previous round.
I showed 4 the previous round.
Oh, well, just show
the round before then.
Shut up. Starting with Swedish, I think this is the only Swedish I have shown, but I really like this group. I showed them a lot of these bands I showed in '92 also, because they released some really great follow-ups. One more time, which is, as I mentioned in '92, the son of ABBA, Benny Andersson, and his wife and a friend of theirs. This is their second album, self-titled also, which contains more great folk music, pop, and great production that I really do like. A comeback that was surprisingly good. Kylie Minogue, self-titled, Confide in Me, such an amazing. I think that Brothers in Rhythm have produced this, if I'm not wrong. Surrender. This is a really great atmospheric and great pop album. She stepped out of Stockcake and Waterman in a phenomenal way. And some soul. I usually show some soul. I haven't shown that much.
Yeah, right.
90s soul I have starting to discover more lately than I did 94. I was more into early 90s and 80s, but when it became more R&B, and so I was All for One, I Swear I just love I Swear. I still think it's an amazing song. But they're underrated, All for One. And finally, another one I showed in '92. Shanice, album after I Love Your Smile album, 21 Ways to Grow, containing some really great tracks. Turn Down the Lights is really great. Amazing produced and really great smooth soul. My 1994.
All right, yes. And Stunty is frantically pulling.
Yeah, well, as we're doing several, then I just
take us
figured
home.
That, like there are records that are like maybe my favorite records of '94, and maybe some of my favorite records ever, and also the most influential in many ways. And I take them so much for granted that I didn't even mention them yet. Well, this, of course, Aphex Twin Select and Ambient Works Volume 2. This was the soundtrack of '94 for me. That album I listened the whole year, and the year after that. It's this is arguably one of the most influential and the most important albums of the '90s. in any genre, and it's recognized as such, not just by me, but like if you like you look at Pitchfork, any site that has like wants to have the appearance of relevance for the 90s, like this is one of the absolute stunner albums. Something less mainstream, but that was for me a game changer. Scorn, Evanescence, their third album, which, as you can see on the sticker, the hype sticker back then, I don't know if you can see, but they marketed it as redefining ambient dub, and people started to talk about dark ambient or ambient dark dub, whatever. This is the guy from Napalm Death doing dub music, electronic music, eerie, very eerie. Like when they say dark, it's rather eerie than dark, and it's based on bass, guitar, drums, but the main instrument is still the mixer, like as in dub. So lots of effects, like kind of slow beats. I saw them live for that, and that was the event. All the journalists of Paris, music journalists, that was the gig that everyone wanted to see, because is this gonna really change things? It did, but not in the way expected back then. But for me, that's such an influential album. Then one of my favorite bands, my favorite records of theirs, Seafeel, the Stare Through EP, which is the transition between the stuff they did on Too Pure and the stuff they did on Warp. So basically, you have the best of both worlds when they are kind of a post My Bloody Valentine shoegaze band going into electronics, and before they become a full abstract electronic band. There's still some singing on this, but they had a video. This is from the video that was huge. Like they played it so often late night on MTV back then, and this is eerie, elegiac. Female abstract singing with dub, and it's just beauty. That's the main concern of that, I would say. And then the band, the only band I'm a fan of in the strict sense, the only band I have everything of, which is about 140 records of. And the first record I bought on eBay in 1998 or 99, it's the first Otaker single on Warp, 310-inch box set with remixes. Not my favorite records of theirs, but I love it. And I got it on CD when it was released, and it was impossible to find. So when eBay appeared and suddenly you could get records from the past at a market price, which was new then. That was my very first purchase of a record online back in 98 or 98. And lastly, a record that is not electronic, but this is Maine with Motion Pool on Beggar's Banquet. Maine is the band that Robert Hampson did after he ended Loop, the shoegaze noise psychedelic band, and this is just guitar, but made in a way. This is a triple LP, and this is drony ambient, but solely based out of guitar with effects. And it's a beauty. All the records from Maine from that time are almost, they're more like electroacoustic music, almost music concrète rather than ambient. It's not like keyboards, like pads and all that. It's more sophisticated than that. And it was just so weird to see these records being issued on Beggar's Banquet, because this is kind of this is music that should never have been. There's no economical reason why this was released. It made no sense, but they did, and I'm thankful for that.
All right. I'm going to have to create a new list of
Yeah, so basically
records
94.
here. I'm going to call it Stunty's list. So
Yeah, for me 94 is like a phenomenal year for music in terms of new music that is like looking forward and finding new ways. Like I literally had like when I looked on my disc 413 records on vinyl from that year, and I could go on. I put a list of a small selection of the stuff that I think is great. I only showed stuff that I think is great, and like, yeah, it's
that
insane.
store I was talking about that has a lot of music in there. There was an Aphex Twin record in there, and I went to one of the listening stations to listen to it, and I liked it. But the problem was, again, the prices in this store, and I had already picked out a couple records that that I was already approaching the $70-$80, and I was only buying 3 records, and this would have put me over $100. So I said, yeah, I'll wait for another time to get it.
That one, unless you're willing to buy a bootleg, if you want a good copy of this in good shape, that's like $400 or $500.
Well, never mind on that. This was actually a Peel session that I thought was way overpriced because that's an EP, and it was sounded good, but I wasn't going to shell out $40 for a Peel session EP. So
if it's if it's such in demand and it's limited, why not? If you like it, but I guess I think if it's the one that is fairly recent from a few years ago, that's overpriced. I would say.
Yeah.
Not because it's overpriced
recent.
in general, but that you can probably find it for much cheaper.
Right. So that store in general, a lot of the stuff is pretty, but you can find some, I got a decent deal on that Underworld 12-inch. That wasn't bad. I think, I got it for about $7. I don't even think it was that much. So anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank everybody in the audience for watching and listening and feeding us comments. Appreciate it. As it says at the bottom of my screen, you can find me on Instagram as newsdude76. I do post things on Instagram that are non-music, so but I am posting some record photos and things like that. And thank you guys for being up here today on the screen. And so I'll just close as always with, remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.